Hello students, today our topic of discussion is COVID-19 and pregnancy. As you demanded last time, and today as we all are knowing that this is a global pandemic threatening the whole human being, the humanity is at risk. This is taking a great toll all over the world. This is the high time we should know about this disease, and we should know what can be the prevention, what can be the treatment, how the pregnant ladies can be taken care of. And since I have to teach you all about medical disorders in pregnancy, I first started with the topic of COVID-19 and pregnancy. As of today, this global pandemic has killed at least 2.4 lakh people all over the world. For our country, almost 40,000 people is infected with this viral disease, and almost 1300 have been killed by this disease. So today the topic of discussion is COVID-19 and pregnancy. We have to start it one by one. I have tried to include all the headings or all the small points to be mentioned or we know till date. But if you have any query, you can ask me. All the questions are invited. So first we have to start with introduction. The name of the virus, novel coronavirus, but the proper nomenclature is SARS-CoV-2. SARS is severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. The name of the disease is COVID-19, that is coronavirus disease 2019. So as for any medical problem or disease, we have to start with prevention. So here also we are starting with the prevention part of the disease in pregnant lady. So all pregnant women should follow the same recommendation as non-pregnant person for avoiding exposure to SARS-CoV-2. Pregnant health workers, especially for pregnant health workers in third trimester, particularly of more than 36 weeks gestation. So any medical or paramedical nursing staff who is pregnant female of more than 36 weeks gestation, they have to stop face-to-face contact with the patients. What can be the different clinical manifestations? So as we all must be knowing that fever is the most common presentation found in up to 67% of cases, dry cough in 66% of cases, dyspnea or breathlessness in 7%, sore throat in 7% cases, fatigue and myalgia, that is body ache, and headache are also very important symptom. And there is a very particular problem of abnormalities or loss of smell and or taste. Now comes the classification of disease severity. So it is again divided in 4 categories. Number 1 is asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic, when the patient is not having any symptom, but if COVID-19 test is performed, it is found to be positive. Then comes mild illness. Mild illness means the patient will have fever, cough, sore throat, or any of these or all of these with body ache, myalgia, headache, but the patient will not have the problem of breathlessness or discomforting breathing or dyspnea. Then comes the category of severe illness, Here the respiratory rate is more than 30, the SpO2 is less than 93%, and in chest radiograph or chest X-ray we find more than 50% lung infiltrates. Then comes the final, that is critical illness. Here the patient is either presenting with respiratory failure, septic shock, or multi-organ failure or multi-organ disease. Then comes the course of this disease in pregnancy. Pregnant women who develop COVID-19 pneumonia show approximately same rate of ICU admissions as the non-pregnant population, but of course there is one problem associated with pregnancy, that is increased rate of preterm and cesarean delivery. Then we have to definitely mention about the vertical transmission of disease. So SARS-CoV-2 has not been detected in cord blood or amniotic fluid or placenta. That is, it is found to be having no intrauterine transmission. So now we have to mention about approach to diagnosis, how we can diagnose and what is the population subgroup where we have to think about the diagnosis. So possibility of COVID-19 is to be considered in patients with new onset fever and or chills and or respiratory tract symptoms, means cough, breathlessness, or the patient is residing or has history of travel to a location where there is community transfer of or community transmission of SARS-CoV-2, or the woman is having close contact with either confirmed or suspected case in last 14 days. So what is the testing modality? The testing is done for SARS-CoV-2 RNA by RT-PCR. It is done on oropharyngeal swab, nasal swab and nasopharyngeal swab. But nasopharyngeal swab is having, since nasopharyngeal swab is having the most sensitivity, it is preferred, or we try to do nasopharyngeal swabbing only. For area having large population of suspected corona disease, nowadays rapid testing kit is available where we do testing by antibody level. Then comes chest X-ray for initial evaluation of pulmonary complications in most of the hospitalized patients. But as we know that for pregnant ladies this X-ray is difficult, so we do pulmonary ultrasound for quick diagnosis of pneumonia in pregnant women. Now comes antenatal care. That is the most important part during the care of pregnant women. So we have to start with preventing exposure in community. This is done by social distancing, by maintaining social distancing, by cough etiquettes, coughing and sneezing hygiene, and hand hygiene by frequent hand washing with soap and water or alcohol based sanitizer. Patients with potential exposure. Pregnant patient with contact history and or travel history should be isolated. They should self-isolate themselves, and if possible testing is performed on them. Then routine antenatal care in asymptomatic women. There are modifications in prenatal visits, including what can be the modifications? These are telecommunications by video calling or by Skype, whatever way. The pregnant ladies should have access to BP machine in their home only. We have to minimize the number of tests. Means we have to do single oral GTT test with 75 grams glucose only, in spite of 50 grams GCT and then 100 grams of glucose GTT. In spite of double marker, quadruple marker, like different serum screenings, we have to do a single cell-free DNA test at more than 10 weeks of gestation. Prenatal visits in person is minimized to 4 at 12, 20, 28 and 36 weeks of gestation only, where scans and labs can be performed simultaneously. All patients and healthcare workers who are involved in this outpatient department should wear at least masks and gloves, and for the partners or for the attenders of female, we have to make available this video communication, like video calling can be done, but no visitors allowed in the consultation room. Then comes medical management of pregnant women with COVID-19. What? Medical management of pregnant women with COVID-19. First of is home care, like if the female is asymptomatic or having mild symptoms only, they don't need hospital level care. They should self quarantine in the home only, and with consultation, video consultation, they can take care of themselves at home. For hospitalized patients, of course, with the illnesses of much gravity, we have to hospitalize the patients, and then hospitalized patients should be cared for by multi-speciality team. How about fetal monitoring? One Bluetooth enabled external fetal monitor is to be used for fetal heart rate tracing. Like the simple Doppler we do for fetal monitoring, we have to connect it with Bluetooth external device. Then as these ladies are having risk of preterm labor, we have to monitor and manage the preterm if any signs of preterm labor is present. Then maternal oxygenation level. Among critically ill patients, respiratory failure leading to ARDS is dominant finding. So general supportive care as for normal population, that is the same. General supportive care is the same. But in ICU, usually these patients are treated in prone position. But of course, for pregnant ladies in advanced gestation, even semi-prone position is difficult. Though it is difficult, it is recommended. Then use at type of venous thromboembolism prophylaxis. There is increased risk of venous thromboembolism, but here the choice of drug is for VTE prophylaxis is unfractionated heparin in spite of low molecular weight heparin, because it is more readily reversed. So if we can use low molecular weight heparin for postpartum patients or for antepartum patients where the labor is not expected in next 1 week or so. Then comes safety of antiviral therapy. There is no definite treatment or therapy till date, but HCQS, hydroxychloroquine sulfate, has been seen to have some role, not yet proved 100% efficacy, but still it is used. Then remdesivir, it is an antiviral which is having activity against SARS-CoV-2 in vitro, so it is also considered to be a therapy. Then comes medications for management of complications during pregnancy. One very important is antenatal steroids, as these patients are at risk of developing this preterm labor. As we all know, this the steroid is given for lung maturity in cases where we expect preterm delivery. CDC recommends avoiding glucocorticoids for general population, but for pregnant ladies we have to think twice. So American College of Obs and Gynae says because of clear benefits of betamethasone, it is to be administered between 24 to 34 weeks, like 24 plus 0 to 33 plus 6 weeks up to 34 weeks gestation in confirmed or suspected case with high risk of delivery within 7 days, considering the benefit of this drug. But of course, between 34 to 37 weeks, it is not considered to give this drug, because even the efficacy is not very much in the next 7 days, and the fetus is not at very much risk of prematurity. Then comes about low dose aspirin. If the patient is already on aspirin and she is low risk, there we can continue, but the decision to continue the drug is to be individualized for confirmed cases because of the possible negative effect of NSAIDs. Then for tocolysis, if the patient is at risk of developing preterm labor, of course nifedipine can be used safely. Now, follow-up of patients who recover from COVID-19. This can be done by ultrasonography to assess fetal growth a few weeks following recovery, especially in patients with severe illness. Yeah, of course, in mild illness also we have to monitor by ultrasound after a few weeks of recovery. In ultrasound, we also see the placental part, because chances of placental thrombosis is there, and as part of the disease, and the fetus is at risk of developing IOGR because of maternal and subsequently fetal hypoxia during the pregnancy part. Then timing delivery in infected patients. For most patients with non-severe illness and no medical or obstetric indication for prompt delivery, delivery is not indicated to be done in a short period. It is done only for medical or obstetric indication. Women with severe illness, timing of delivery needs to be individualized. Like for hospitalized patients with pneumonia and not intubated, some advocate delivery is to be done between 32 to 34 weeks, as after the delivery there are even a little bit more chances of recovering from this respiratory discomfort or respiratory distress. But timing of delivery of hospitalized patients who are intubated and critically ill is very challenging, whether we have to keep the fetus in utero, as chances even after delivery the chances of survival of fetus is grim, and the complications, chances of increasing the complications to mother is much more. Then comes management of labor and delivery. Evaluation of all patients presenting to labor and delivery unit for admission. Of course, they should be evaluated. Screening by thermometer and testing of all patients is appropriate. Then use of PPE. You must be knowing the term PPE, that is personal protective equipment. PPE to be used in labor and delivery room. During active labor, there are concerns of viral dissemination when the patient is forcefully exhaling. So, all clinicians and nursing staff who is attending the delivery should wear PPE, and for the care of COVID-19 patients who are in labor, they should use face mask or cloth face covering is used. Then support persons. What about support persons on labor and delivery? Every patient is accompanied with a attender or support person. So screening before entering the labor unit. All support persons to be screened before entering the labor unit. Support person who is screen positive should not be permitted to come inside the labor unit. Then comes route of delivery. So cesarean delivery is performed for standard obstetric indication only. There is no way or there is no indication of doing cesarean in COVID positive patient, pregnant patient only. Then screening patients scheduled for induction or cesarean section. For elective cesarean or induction, the symptomatic COVID-19 patient testing should be done at least a day before induction or cesarean. Then comes analgesia or anesthesia part. Neuraxial anesthetic like spinal anesthesia or epidural is not contraindicated and has even several advantages in laboring patients. It reduces cardiopulmonary stress from pain and anxiety and in turn viral dissemination. But when GA is considered, special PPE is to be worn for all individual or involved healthcare workers. Then comes management of labor management. Generally, management of labor is not at all altered from normal patients, normal laboring ladies. But since SARS-CoV-2 has not been detected in vaginal secretion or amniotic fluid, we can continue with the normal labor process, and normal labor procedures like rupture of membrane may be performed for usual indication, and pushing in second stage is not to be delayed. The patient is encouraged to push. Delivery procedures as like normal laboring patients, delayed cord clamping has no added benefit regarding transmission of pathogen or virus. American Academy of Pediatrics advises bathing newborn as soon as possible to remove virus potentially present on the surface of skin. Then about postpartum care. Maternal monitoring. Asymptomatic patients. Routine maternal monitoring is done only. For mild patients, check vital signs and monitor intake output at least for 24 hours post vaginal delivery and 48 hours post LSCS. For moderate illness, continuous SpO2 monitoring, lab testing and chest imaging as guided by patient's course. And for severe or critical illness, monitoring is done in ICU unit only. Infant evaluation. Infants of mothers of COVID-19 are considered COVID-19 suspects and they should be tested as soon as possible within 24 hours. They should be isolated from other healthy infants and cared for accordingly. About mother-baby contact. So there are some conditions in which we do temporary separation. Factors to consider regarding temporary separation. The mother's and infant's clinical condition. If the mother is critically ill, we have to definitely apply this temporary separation only. Whether mother infection is suspected or confirmed, if the infant is testing positive for COVID-19, separation is not needed at all. If repeatedly, I am telling you, if the infant's testing report is positive, separation is not needed. Then mother's desire to breastfeed. If the mother is very much willing to breastfeed, we have to give the baby for breastfeeding. Then mother's ability to maintain the separation when she goes home. That is also an important factor. After hospital discharge, mother should maintain, if the mother is ill or febrile, she should maintain a distance of 6 feet from newborn and use face mask and hand hygiene until she is afebrile for more than 72 hours. Then about breastfeeding and formula feeding. Virus is not at all transmitted through breast milk. However, droplet transmission could occur through close contacts. Breastfeeding should be encouraged as part of the routine, as apart from other benefits, breast milk is a passive source of antibodies and other anti-infective factors. Thus, it may provide passive antibody protection to the infant. Precautions must be taken. Precautions to prevent transmission to infants during breastfeeding. For the ladies, they have to wear a mask, hand and breast hygiene strictly to be maintained. Disinfect the shared surface that the symptomatic mother has contacted. Those who have the need for formula feeding, they should have healthy caregiver with all the precautions during feeding. So this is all about pregnancy and COVID-19. Yeah, there is one part of contraception. So permanent contraception or sterilization for vaginal delivery, it is not to be done, as any elective procedure is not to be done. If we are doing cesarean section and the family is complete, we can do bilateral tubal ligation. For sterilization or for contraception, we can take other measures like injectable medroxyprogesterone acetate, or we can use intrauterine devices. So children, this is all about COVID-19 and pregnancy in gist. If you have any query, you can ask me. I am always there to respond to your queries, and if you have any question, you can definitely put your questions to us. Thank you.